Well, some damning findings in that state capture report. Former President Jacob Zuma named as the person who was central to the Gupta brothers' scheme to capture Eskom. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo also recommending criminal charges against former Eskom executive officers Brian Molefe and Machela Koko, as well as ex-Chief Financial Officer Anuj Singh. Let's unpack the latest installment of the state capture report. I'm joined by Karam Singh, Executive Director at Corruption Watch. Karam, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So, more information on the dodgy dealings at Eskom, putting Jacob Zuma as the architect of what we saw unfold there. Also recommendations that former bosses face investigation. This is the state capture report clearly telling the NPA that it has its work cut out for it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're talking about the officials going up to the president, senior politicians, senior officials, former board directors, former executives, all of whom seem to be implicated in the findings of the report in what's effectively a kind of racketeering operation, a criminal syndicate. So it would seem as if this would be a serious priority for the NPA going forward as it seeks to prioritize how it now deals with all of this criminality and the extent to which they have cases already prepared that they can begin to enroll in court related to some of these facts.
The judge obviously recommending that prosecutors consider filing charges against the former chief executive officers Brian Molefe and Machela Koko, as well as the ex-chief financial officer Anuj Singh. The NPA obviously has a team that's been set up to look into all of this. How long do you think it's going to take for us to actually see people go on trial and end up in bars? Because we've seen cases like this drag on for years in South Africa.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And it's difficult to be overly optimistic or encouraged that these things will move quickly. The track record hasn't, over the last period, including the period of state capture, has been very slow when it comes to these types of prosecutions of high-profile people. We've had 3-4 years now of the Zondo Commission. We've had an independent directorate, a new head of the NPA, and they have made some progress. But the sheer volume of the cases that need to come means that these are going to take time. So one would hope to see relatively soon some of the cases at least enrolled, a clear indication from the NPA that they think they have winnable cases. But then, once they're enrolled in the court system, we know with the presumption of innocence and with the nature of trying to prove a criminal case beyond a reasonable doubt, that these cases will get drawn out and they could take years.
Yeah, and there is obviously evidence when it comes to how certain contracts were given to Gupta-linked companies to provide coal, etc., of a low standard compared to what else was on offer. Tell me how important it is for South Africa to get the Gupta brothers back into this country so that they can face trial and the consequences.
I think it's absolutely critical. I think it's clear that the state capture project was something that, that completely derailed our democracy. It sunk, it had major negative impacts on the economy. It's shaken the very foundation and trust that we have as people living in the country, that we can trust government to have the bona fides to deliver on the promise of the Constitution. The Guptas were absolutely central to this. There have already been indicted in relationship to some of the Free State cases. I think there's probably a more comprehensive set of charges that still need to be laid against the Guptas. But then what about all of the people that are still remain in the country? We're looking clearly now at former President Zuma as a kingpin in this whole operation. And I think, you can begin to kind of draw a kind of hierarchy of people who have a case to answer to, for whom accountability must be sought, criminal accountability.
What about accountability from the ANC? Because Zondo goes in this installation of the report to say that the ANC and the ANC government should be ashamed about what happened under their watch.
You know, the reading of the Zondo Commission report doesn't get better for the ANC. It gets worse, you know, because every time a new report comes out, we see more officials implicated, more officials who are even, you know, still within cabinet, people that are considered to be allies of the president. And now, you know, we're seeing some movement slowly with the NEC in terms of, you know, perhaps instrumentalizing the step aside resolution. But it's very, very difficult because it seems as if the ANC is so intertwined to receiving some of the benefits and the kickbacks from these state capture deals. So how do we extract that money back? How do we recover that money back and expect that the ANC could even survive as an organization?
Karam, without sounding too skeptical about the state of state capture in this country, obviously the government says it's working hard to turn things around to make sure it doesn't happen again. It's trying to actually fix the issues that we saw at Eskom and other parastatals by even recovering the money from contracts that were dodgy. Are you satisfied as Corruption Watch with the efforts and plans in place to deal with corruption in this country right now?
Well, that's a huge question. I mean, I think if we said we were satisfied, I think we would really be lowering the bar. You know, I mean, I think the situation that we're dealing with, the deficit of accountability that we're talking about, the amounts of money that were stolen, and then, you know, the people in power that were behind this that are still kind of at the levers of power, you know, without facing any real case to be answered to, is deeply troubling. So I think we can go case by case. We can look at the revitalization of SARS. We can give the leadership of the MPA, you know, that we can accept the bona fides that they're doing their best. But, you know, the way in which we're dealing, you know, it's not just about a goodwill or political will. You know, what the KZN flood relief was, you know, a reaction showed was that with this levels of distrust, it gets to the point where we just don't know if government can deliver on its promises. So, you know, the president continues to say many of the right things about corruption, but yet we don't see the kind of bold action, even in terms of some of the things that would be more within government's control, like creating more transparency in the public procurement system. All of those things seem to move along so slowly in terms of the reforms to give us any real sense of confidence that we're moving decisively in the right direction.
All right, thank you so much for your time and your insight. Appreciate it. Karam Singh, Executive Director of Corruption Watch.